this is another one of those comic books that you happen upon like at a garage sale and whatnot. And I never really followed Excalibur. I've heard good things about it. I've read a few of them. But this one really hit me in the feels. This was a good read. This is Excalibur issue 76. And I will say that choosing black here really should have been like white or yellow. Because I think it says Nightcrawler goes home. Okay, yeah. Just that black on there makes it so hard to read. That should have been a different color. But that's just the designer in me. Now we open up. And we see just this cacophony of violence. And it says, and if I pronounce these names wrong, feel free to make fun of me down in the comments. This says Cottbus, Germany, 1994. Nearly half a century since the death of you-know-who. 10 years after Orwell's Big Brother failed to appear. 4 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall. 2 years after the breakup of the Soviet Union. The streets are once again awash with fascism and racism. And you come to find out that it says here, fanned by the eyes of despair. Look on my face and despair. And that's a little corny using the guy's name like so. I mean, I get it, but it's kind of silly, but nonetheless, it at least sets the stakes of what's going on in this book. Now, print date was 1994. This character, obviously, as we just saw from this text bubble, is despair. I've been around for many a year. Played with heroes till they cried, sucked hope out of children's dreams, scorned your prayers while your martyrs died. From Holocaust to Stalin's purges, from the killing fields to India's midnight despair. It feeds fear. It feeds off me. And now this, in country after country, neighbor against neighbor, a crazed cleansing that promises to be a rich repast. Gloat while you can, demon. The magic of the winding way that may have left Margali weak and helpless, but I am not without friends and influence. So this is called Dog Years. And I hate when they do this where you want to credit who made this book, but then they kind of smash the names together. So it says Ashford, Lashley, Elliott, words and pictures, Brosseau, Matthys, Garrahy, letters and colors, Gaffney, Harris, and DeFalco, editors, big edits and biggest edits, plot assist by Scott Lobdell. And there's Scott Lobdell's name again, hence why I say that man was all over the X books back in the 90s, kind of at least doing what he could to keep continuity going. And I love Ken Lashley's work here, just absolutely beautiful, and I miss the quality that we'd see in here. Now again, as I've always said, comics, like the first book you pick up should be your first book, and you should be enthralled and engaged so that you want to continue the series or go back and read the subsequent issues. This starts off with Kurt being in the hospital, and it says, it takes a lot of shocks to shock these doctors and nurses, and even more to make them laugh. I might have known, put two people together, and Kurt thinks it's an audience. He sure is funny, cute too, blue skin and all. Yeah, a riot. So who's the biggest trip in the room, you or the IV? That's a good line. And Kurt's like, Amanda, you've cut me to the core. The doctors told me to exercise. And those nurses, let me guess, your trainers. But at least this way, it's not enough to make you go, okay, well, it's enough to make you want to go back and read, but we just kind of skip past it. Kurt's ready to go. And of course, being the debonair he is, kisses Amanda, and he's like, you smooth talking devil. That was nice. So she kind of brings him up to speed on despair and whatnot. And as they're going, the conversation gets more serious because it brings up his stepmother. But now that I know that Mystique was my birth mother, in fact, I learned a lot that I have a rather extended family. Rogue is an adopted sister. Graydon Creed is a half-brother. Even in a technical sense, Sabretooth is a stepfather. Not exactly the family I dreamed of finding, but not bad for an orphan who was abandoned by his mother at the Winseldorf Falls. And did I say abandoned? Hurled, actually, by Mystique into the raging water in a desperate attempt to save her own skin. And so as he's kind of reminiscing, she goes, this is not the best at times, but I have a favor to ask. My mother, your foster mother, needs help. And I think I'm pronouncing her name right, Margali. For whatever her reasons, it seems that she's been on the center of all of my lies in my life. I can't blame her for what Mystique did. But right now I'm not crazy about Margali either. You don't understand. The power of wind's path, it's like a life. It's like a journey. Sometimes when you travel the path, you have limitless power. Other times you're weak and helpless. It all depends on where about one is on the path. So he's reluctant to help her, but because it's Amanda, of course he's going to do it. That's how Kurt Wagner is. And then we bring us back to speed with Kitty. And what's interesting is that her father tries to call. And if you all don't remember, we went over the Wolverine Kitty Pryde series. I think it was from the 80s. And she comes to find out, her parents are getting divorced, and her dad cuts a deal with the Yakuza to try to save his bank. And she essentially tells her father that she never wants to speak to him again. So there's like this bubbling underneath. And she's wanting to reconnect because it's her father, and, her family's so broken. But nonetheless, she misses it. And that kind of becomes a continuing thing through these issues that I have. Now, what's interesting to me, if y'all can kind of clue me in, is then we cut to this dude just kind of pushing against this burly dude. And we're like, who is this guy? And this is apparently Brian Braddock. It says 3 floors of reinforced steel below. When last they saw him, he was Brian Braddock, a.k.a. Captain Britain. He had been lost in the time stream until his teammate Rachel sacrificed her existence in the here and now, allowing him to return. What came back was a drastically altered Captain Britain, answering only to the call of Britanic. And I'll admit, I'm not really fond of that name. But at least they kind of gave Captain Britain a different change. Kind of like what they did with Betsy back in the day, where she was part of the Britain Corps or whatever it was called. And then she came to the Xavier's Institute, and she got her scene back and whatnot, even though it was at a very morbid twist with Mojo. And that's a whole nother thing. But it says, possessing a strange but determined spirit. Which we've always known that Captain Britain is a little intense, but he still had some emotion about him. And he's essentially saying, I have to leave. I need transportation. It is ordained. It cannot be interfered with. Let's all calm down now, Britanic. How can we help you? Where do you want to go? Yes, you there. Come. There cannot be stragglers. Whoa, good God. A good thing I can phase right through, or else I'd be a doormat right now. Maybe he really has lost it. And then we see him again. He is tapped into the natural world. He is following the patterns that we cannot hope to sense. He sees things that would drive us mad. Not to be pessimistic, McGann, but Brian doesn't seem to be coping all that well. Time will tell. We must aid him. And then what's interesting is this guy here, he goes, since learning the ugly truth that I'm destined to become Ahab, the mutant slayer, I'm questioning my every action. Can I do anything to change my fate or theirs? And so I just kind of like how this character here, okay, we're thinking, we know who Ahab is. I'm not sure where he is at in terms of the history right now. But yeah, it's a nice little addition to this series. And now as Kurt lets Amanda rest from teleporting him, there's a little boy, I think he's supposed to be a gypsy. Lynch the gypsy. Beat him. No, I'm just a kid. What have I done? Why do you hate me? You steal, you beg, you murder us in our beds. Stop. You dare strike an unarmed child. In the next minutes, he is among them, trusting that his freakish demeanor and his outrage will unnerve them. And it is working. He is not interested in counting in odds which are stacked against him. This is not the way to solve problems, attacking helpless children. It's not going to make your problems diswhack. For as many who might be swayed by his words, there are others who would not wait to hear them. Poor Kurt. He just seems to always catch the shit end of the stick, man. But when we think all that is lost, and Kurt's holding his face, and he's like, was that part of the Berlin Wall? So he's essentially putting his life before this child's to try to save it. And of course, despair thinks he has won, but Margali Kurt, my son, he is my last hope. The path has left me helpless, but I must reach out to him. A mother's love could help him gather strength. And she says to herself that with him coming has given her something that despair did not count on. So Excalibur 76, it's not, again, like I say, a lot of these, it's not like a chase issue. It's not the big next event. It's not the 176th of 1000 variant or whatever. It's just a good, entertaining read. And at the end of the day, that's what comic books should be. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen in this issue with the beautiful art and a relatively interesting story going along, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is like to get your action figures and comics and grab this book and this series. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Excalibur bell next subscribe, that way as I can upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure I leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.